All right, we'll get started. Thank you all for coming. I can see you never know which classes are of interest to people or what they're looking for. So I hope that you'll get some good things out of this. And if there's other things you would rather talk about, let me know. Okay? And if we're going to talk about some of the really identifying or recognizing that there are issues with our family tree because there's so many different users. That's just how we are. But what you can do to fix them and even prevent them from being caused by you. And I will tell you that I am just a user of the program. I like to do family history things. I like to merge and link records, and I have learned a lot of what I was doing wrong. So I'm passing that on to you so that you don't have to do those same mistakes. All of my information comes from Catherine Grant. She's worked at BYU many, many years. And her website is there on the bottom, Goldenrod Genealogy. So she has lots more information on all of this. If you have questions or want to know more of any of it or the templates, just go to her website. So we're going to talk about how those modern issues happen in our FamilySearch family tree and understanding things we can do to prevent that ourselves, be sure we're putting in quality things and identify how to fix some of those issues. And also the importance of communicating and collaborating so that other users in Family Tree understand what we did and don't make the same mistake or continue to add to the good part. And some tips and tools to make it easier and happier. So Family Tree is a shared tree. When you have your own private tree like on Ancestry, no one else can make changes. But this is a shared tree, a project we're all working in together. So virtually everyone can make changes to it. And when you think about it, there is such a variety, and there's millions of users that we have our seasoned genealogists who've been working in genealogy for more than 60 years and want their information to be right and know very well how to search and add records. And there's newbies who just jump into it and anyone can make changes in here. So it's easy to have errors there. You also have older people who may not see the screen so well, or computer savviness could be a challenge to the younger ones. We have teenagers and 7- and 8-year-olds who love to work on family history who are adding information here. There are projects that add more profiles here and help clean up, but mostly there's a whole bunch of individuals doing all individual work together. And you also have relatives you might know and distant relatives you've never met and non-relatives and multiple languages. It's not all in English. My husband's mother's side is from Luxembourg, and so there are many records profiles that are in there in German and in French as well as English. And there's also multiple skills, multiple knowledge and levels of skill of people who are working on the shared family tree. So there's a huge margin for error, and it's okay. You can work on your own private one to make sure what you know is right and protect that. But this is our opportunity to work together so that we can make one huge, complete, accurate record for each person who's ever lived on the earth, all linked together to everybody else who's here. That's our goal. And we all work on it together. But we do have to remember to be careful and not casual in what information we're adding to that. And to remember that these are real people. It's not a game. We're not just moving things around. All the other users are real people too. So that golden rule applies to if you don't want things done to you, don't do it to them. But also to be kind because you want to be kind. This is our big challenge. So everybody can see everything, and most everyone just assumes that it's correct because it's there. And even that the algorithms will automatically give you the right thing. If it's a hint, it's gotta be right. Or if it's a duplicate, they've gotta be merged. But looks like most of you know that's not the case. If we put in the wrong data, it's going to the algorithm's going to search for sources that match your wrong data. So it can give you wrong hints that leads to wrong merges. That makes it so confusing. And it's easy to see how all those errors can snowball, and then it's hard to be able to take it out and extract who all these people were. Have any of you had bad merges? People to extract and take apart. All right. I have some of my relatives are from England, and they have many common names used over and over. I have a Mary Davis, married to, I think, a John Davis. And I know in her record she's at least 5 people. But to be able to extract that is a challenge. And you figure if it's the same name, it's gotta be the same person, right? So to just be careful and take time, don't rush through it with what you're putting in there so that you're not contributing to the problems, but to the more correct things. And to remember that family tree is not a sandbox, it's not practice, and we don't need to put in placeholder names, create fake profiles like parents. We know this person would have parents, so that we'll just create a profile for Mr. Smith and Mrs. Smith, and someday we'll find those. But the algorithm can actually search for Mr. Smith. So if you don't have their complete information, don't create their profile yet in Family Tree, because it will give you bad hints that you think are right, but it's leading you the wrong way. And just pause before you make any changes or add records to be sure what you're doing makes sense. So guidelines on entering names: use their full legal name or the name that's on most of their historical records. Don't use parentheses. There's a section for other in the profile that you can add all the alternate names you want. For women, it's important, especially if you were to make their profile off of a record where they're married, that's not their name. They could have been married multiple times. So don't make a profile for them using their married surname. If you don't know their original maiden name, just leave that surname blank. Does that make sense? Sometimes that's hard to do, but it will actually, the algorithm will search for the person with that last name. And so you'll connect them to parents of that same married last name, which is not correct. So eventually you'll be able to find the right ones. And don't make up suffixes like junior and senior, because you don't know if they're the 3rd or the 18th who've had that same name. And for entering dates, to be sure that you do use the FamilySearch standard, so the number day, the word text month, and the number year, because some places switch the date and month, or the year, can't say it, the date and month. So you want to be sure and use a text word for the month, and be sure when you're accepting the standardized thing that it's correct what you want it to say. And for entering places, be sure that you're standardizing it so that the algorithm can search it. It might not come out exact for you, so in the reason statement box below that where you enter it, you can put an exact colonial America, whatever. And be sure and use the graphic location, so rather than like a church or because that's easier for the algorithm to search locations. And make sure when you pick that standardized place that you're picking the right one. This person was trying to put in England, and what they chose was India. So the algorithm's gonna search for India records, so it doesn't work if you put in the wrong information. My husband's family's from Puerto Rico, and if you put in Puerto Rico, it automatically comes up with Puerto Rico, Texas, which is not the same as Puerto Rico, the island. So just take a moment, don't be too fast in what you're doing. And adding sources is important for anything that you add now. In this day and age, this stage of family history, we have so many records. So if you're going to put in data, you need to have a source that matches that because you got it from somewhere. So make sure that that source is linked there with a little reason statement of why you attached it there, so that other people can know this is verified information what you're putting in there. And you can always use third-party sources and just add them manually. It is important to use reason statements. And these are just the simple, it pulls up a little text box of why are you attaching this, or why are you saying, why did you make this change? It's important to put something that is real there. It helps you know what you're thinking and work through what you're doing, and helps others to know why you did what you did. That is a common thing right now to add people from source linker, like all the family that comes up on a census record. And you can do that. Just be sure before you do that, you do a manual search for them, just in the find, search for that person to be sure, because the computer doesn't always look for duplicates. And like for this family, it's a census record. You see that the husband's name, you see the wife's name is her married name. Well, that's not her surname. Well, that's not her original maiden name. So you wouldn't want to create her profile off of Elizabeth Gunton. And she might already be in there just under a different name. So just be cautious. And there are some great projects where we're trying to link all these records to people, but be cautious. Like Goldie May is set up to automatically create profiles for anyone who's more than 110 years old. But we'll see in this example that in some research, you find out what Elizabeth's surname really is. And she was really in there already attached to William Gunton. So her profile was already there, but under a different name, so it didn't link. And she was married before that, so her children really have a different name, and they were already in FamilySearch, so it needs more merging. Just caution and going fast.
Is there a way to, if the wife's surname really the same surname as her husband, is there a way to make a note that says this is accurate?
Absolutely, yep. In the so when you enter their name, and if you edit their name, there's the reason statement pops up for everyone. So you just put this really is their verified and the source. So their birth record states this is their name.
So can't you change it on Source Linker when it goes to the other side, it'll be that with pencil? And you can take out. I mean, if you don't know, you know the wife is Elise. You don't know the last name, can you take out the?
You can, and you can create their profile, but the algorithm will not look for duplicates. Just the way that's set up. So you're already, they might have a profile already,
Right.
but you're creating a duplicate.
Okay.
So it's tricky, and finding the balance we work on. Because there's a whole lot of duplicates in there, and we're still trying to add more records and link more records. So just taking the time, it doesn't take long to just to do the search of their name and see if you find them before you actually create another profile.
Also, if you don't create it, that unfinished attachment is gonna be sitting there, so when you do find the right person, you can go back and attach it there. So they're really, you're right, there's no big rush.
Yep, so that will link to, like, that person would link to the husband, and you would always see there's unfinished attachments, so you always be looking for that person. Another thing on that is, right now, because we have so many records, the goal is to not create people off of just one single source. You think about, we need 2 witnesses to convict somebody, but we need 2 sources at least to really ensure we have the right person. And that is with a grain of salt and with your intuition, because sometimes you can only find 1 record, but it's great to have more than 1 record so that you can be sure you have the right person you think you're working with. Okay, this is a huge challenge. Have you Googled your name to see how many people have your name right now? I have more than 500 of mine. So we know that it's so easy to have duplicates. And you think about, in FamilySearch, you can look up how many people have had your name. Well, you don't want to be connected to the wrong person. You don't want to have your grandchild married to the grandmother. Just take moments and make sure things make sense. If you see 2 people, you can easily tell them apart. But how do you tell them apart when they're deceased and you haven't met them? And you're just trying to figure this out. This can lead to a lot of bad merges. And this is part of our challenge. We have lots of duplicates. And then we have lots of bad merges because people just assume that if there's a duplicate hint, it must be correct. Even though some things don't quite match and they have a different spouse, but they have the same name. So be careful, because you know that there's a lot of people who have the same names. And you don't want to be connected to the wrong people. So golden rule, try not to connect other people to the wrong. Did you have a question, comment?
I frequently see this, especially in European records. They have with 2 kids born in the same year with the same name, the same parents. Are they the same person? No, the first one died in January, the second one was born in December, separate people. So if you're not sure, don't put them together. So look
Very
at
good.
the history section. And if you unmurder somebody, it takes you an hour, because you got to figure out actually where the murder was and what happened. Split. And don't merge, it's better to leave them separate.
Yeah, I agree.
The other one I see that same parents, 2 kids, one's named Ronald, one name's Don. Very similar names, it's a misspelling. No, they're twins, nobody ever thinks it's twins.
Yeah. Yeah, good thing. Then that's just
If
where
you're not sure,
take them-
don't stick them together.
Yep, that is great advice. If you're not absolutely sure, don't. Look at the records. And if you find it, or you see like these two are twins, communicate it. So on the collaboration tab, add a note, say, these are twins. And you can put these records, they both have different birth records. Okay, collaborate there because the collaboration notes come at the top of the page. It comes with a little caution sign. Somebody put a note on here. That will help communicate that we've checked this out, we verified that these are sources, and don't merge them. Thank you.
I actually had, a person that I was looking at. And he had two wives of the same name, and so I pulled out the first wife. I went through her line. And then I pulled out the second wife and went through her line. And found out they were not the same. So I didn't merge them, but I did put a note saying, I know that these are the same name and they've got the same birth year, but they are two different people.
Great, so collaborate, put those notes on there because someone else is gonna come behind you too and look at those and think, oh wait. But if you'll put notes on both of those people and which source really worked to verify that for each of them, so they could look at that too, not just saying, oh, I've seen them, they're different people. But actually, because you went through all those sources, you can put on those, this source really verifies that. Awesome.
Often too, they would, I know my Swedish research, they would have a child and the child would die and then reuse the name. Yeah, that's pretty common, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, at first though, I didn't understand that and I thought, oh, wow. No.
Yeah. So putting notes on them so that no one else will mark them really
Even
helps.
putting birth and death date helps you, very important. If it's gonna be a child who died.
Yeah.
I was named exactly after my grandmother. She was Mary Steptoe Landing, and I was named Mary Steptoe Landing. So how confusing can that be?
Yeah, it's true, and I think it's a great honor.
What?
Yes.
You better be.
Yeah.
That's what true, but still.
But yeah, adding those notes with the source.
I was gonna say, another thing is know something about your family, know the basics of your family. Because I was a situation where there was, okay, the names matched up, the husband's name matched up, the mother's name matched up. There are a whole bunch of names that are matching up the same. The only problem was, all this is taking place 100 years before my family, these people ever immigrated to the United States. Now, unless my great grandmother was really good about being married to this guy and having a family over here and being married to this person over and having a family over here in two different countries across the,
Yep. Yes, it is a challenge.
So know something about it, like when your family immigrated.
Yeah, that's great. Very good. These are challenges and it's real. And so taking that time and putting those notes, communicating that gives the opportunity for others to know that once you've spent 10 hours separating these families and making sure they're connected and their sources, put your notes on there so that someone else doesn't come right behind you and put it back. Okay. Like,
We assume that everybody knows how to add notes.
we'll look at that. We're gonna end with that. Thank you. Yeah. So there's lots of naming patterns. Names were reused. Names were carried on through generations. And like you said, it's very important to make sure, just err on the side of caution and common sense. It's great to use some tools to be able to spread out the family and write out all of your source information to really determine if they are the right people and fit in there. And look for just those funny inconsistencies that happen there. So that you can, these are great tags that red alert, something's wrong here. Just be careful and not casual with what you're doing and communicate it. So communication principles, remember they're real people, even though we're all working on a computer. They're real people that we're working with and making profiles. They're also other real people who are adding to it. So assume good intent. People are not trying to destroy your tree. We're just trying to figure this out really fast and get things done. But and definitely add all of your collaboration notes so that people will know how, where to, what you did, so they don't repeat that. Better understand that. That's pretty. So let me show you on Family Tree. You see across here we have collaborate. And here you can add notes or a discussion if you really, either one comes up in the same place. So title for your note. I am not my grandmother, and explaining that this person was born in this year and this other person was born in a different year for these records. You don't have to put, please don't merge, you don't have to put anything like that, just the basic facts of what you discovered, or we did have one in the last class who knew that there was a record that said 2 children were deceased, but she's never been able to find any information about them, rather than creating these fake profiles for people you don't quite know all their information for, putting the note that says 2 deceased children and explaining that, so that the next person following you can have an idea of where it is and what you did. Also, so for the reason statement boxes, if you make any changes, there's always this reason this information is correct box, and we're going to look at how to do effective, simple, easy reason statements. And those go with anytime you make any changes. Okay. So I can get under that. Okay. So for effective reason statements, you want it to be relevant, so it really actually provides a reason, and that it's specific. It doesn't have to be super wordy, but just the key details to what it pertains to. That it's clear, that makes sense to others, because other people, you want them to not make mistakes on what you're doing. And that it's objective, and this is important, that it just relies on the evidence. It's not any speculation or advice or opinions. It should be complete sentences and focused on that ancestor or source. And if you do infer any information, the explaining why and how, and explaining conflicting information. So those are on the little cheat sheet to remember. And here's some really interesting but not good reason statements. The reason statement, I wanted to. Oh, that's good, but that doesn't help. Or yup. Yeah. These are not helpful. All right, from JEDCOM data, so must be correct. Matches as information exactly. What information? And this is good. This might be the same Elijah. This is speculating. it doesn't appear to be associated with any other Elijah. So it supports Elijah having died as an infant. It's a different town, but so not a good reasoning statement. Or same person doesn't help in why are you merging these people?
Can you use the reason like personal knowledge?
You can.
Is that too
But if there isn't some kind of source would be
better?
better, right? Or I am personally acquainted with this person. That would be that would.
That's the thing.
Or this one, I don't think they're the same, but I'm cleaning up the tree. It's not a reason, right? Or standardized, doesn't really show that you proved where they live. Or they're more than 100 years old, so they must be dead, but not taking the time to actually find out if they are. They had kids, okay? So here's a great one for the birth information. So the birthday provided on christening record. Easy to verify, simple, short. And birthplace provided in the 1911 census. Again, easy to verify. It doesn't say, I knew this or any opinions. It's simple, but people can easily say, oh, that's where you got this information. Because how many sources list a different birth date? Or it just says a state. So this helps to know why you did what you did. Or an event like the marriage. This says the marriage year is provided in the civil registration of marriage. So there's a record they can look at there, the source that's attached, and is supported by the census, which says they've been married 2 years at that time. Great. And the county, the place, is inferred from the family's residence in multiple census records and supported by their registration district for the marriage. Okay, so explain why did I come up with this and where I got the information that you can look at it too. This reason to attach a source provides evidence of their residence, birthplace, the approximate birth year, and family relationships. There you go. And this merge reason, now there are lots of canned or standard merge reasons when you do merges, and it's okay to use that because it automatically pulls up both people's numbers, their personal identification numbers, but it probably needs a little bit more explanation like this one. They married the same woman on the same day in the same location. So that would sound like a sound reason to merge them together. And this one is explaining why this is not a match for a record, that they lived in a different place and they had a different occupation and different children. So really, if you love reason statements, making them or showing that you did your due diligence, explaining why that's not a match. Yeah. Any thoughts on that? It's just so helpful to leave your notes trail so that other people can understand that and can also there we are. So that they don't repeat the same problem that you just spent hours fixing. And there are the data quality tools that are in FamilySearch to be able to fix the information that's there. Let me show you. You probably already all know these. In this top corner is the research helps. So it gives you warning things, data problems, like they're born after the mother's childbearing years. Did they really have a child when they're 60 years old? Or how could they be born when after their father's death? So these data problems tell you, oh, we've got to figure out something's wrong here and figure out what that challenge is. And there's also the purple ones are the hints of there might be missing data. And let me find these. And those who were born between 1880 and 1940, I think, have the new quality score, which if you can look at the details there and learn more about what might help this person be more complete here. Like their marriage date's missing a month. There could be more things that you can add there to be sure that they really have the right information that's in there. So just more tools to help us to make sure what we're putting in there is complete and accurate. Any questions or comments on that? And when you do the merge analysis, it really shows you the details of each person. So and aligns them up so you can really see if there's enough here that's the same to think these are the same people or not. It's also helpful when you're breaking down someone like John Miller, who has 42 sources and 14 kids and 2 wives, and you want to be sure that's the right information, to use some kind of research tool to write them all out. And at Catherine's website, Goldenrod Genealogy, she has a few of these different timeline grids that you can just be able to write out the people and their information in each of the censuses to track them and see, are they the right people? This is how we've done it, that they have their names and their birth years. And in the census, like this George worked in an iron lab. And verifying that each of these really make sense, because he would have been with his parents here, but then married. And does it all make sense? Is this all the same person, or do we have more than one person that we're working with? And that's when you get into your challenging ones that you want to figure out and separate the merges that shouldn't have happened. Do any of you use any tools like this or spreadsheet or anything to be able to really dissect and look at these families? Or what do you do? How do you tell if they're really all the same people? If you have this family of 16 kids, how do you verify that they really do all belong there?
I like that merge out analysis thing because you can go down there and see where the wives are, where the children came, where the sources, how they got all that. That helps me, but this is very helpful. And the one thing that I noticed is if you look at if you go through the different censuses, that it's not the same job for every spot. And you'll see that. See that. Wait a minute. This guy's supposed to be a farmer. And now he's a business, he's doing something different at the same time.
And if all of a sudden their race changes or something.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, but it's helpful when you get these complex ones to write it all out. And be able to determine. Okay. So in conclusion, it is a shared project. So we're going to have errors and we're just trying to help that all work out well. We're working towards that. And we know that you can be careful in the information you're adding to the tree and communicate. Use all those notes places, the reason statements and the collaboration tab so that other people know what you did and you know what you did when you're looking back through it. So that hopefully we can help move on and not create new problems. Any questions, comments? All right. Wow. We are done here. Not right on time. Great. Well, thank you. Appreciate it. There are just these little cheat sheets to help you verify when you're merging or adding people or how to do those reason statements. And Catherine's website is so helpful. That has these timeline grids in many formats because it's easier to fill out online since your grid gets bigger and bigger. But she has lots of information there. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I quite following.
Yep, so there
Then they're all good.
right here you have maiden name so right there.
Oh. And in the marriage breakers, or the birth record, the marriage breakers, you know, so the word they use. It says that actually, this name, but that word doesn't mean anything in English. So,
That's good. You can also collaborate. You can just do a maiden name, same as surname. You can put it there because that shows up in the details page. It goes right.
Thank you, Kim.
so thank you, yeah, my family, they seem to have a name when they were born, but they didn't like that name and choose something different. Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Yeah.
My grandmother, first certificate has one name, the way she was christened, like was blessed, they were different names. They went with their Social Security, their birth record, I was in the name of it.
Yeah, it's crazy.